Alright, back at it. Getting dialed in, preparing for battle. We look at the SPY, and as I've been joking kind of with the SPY about it only ever goes up forever, well, that is still applying, because for a split second I thought this potentially looked bearish in here, but we've we've rallied right back to all-time highs like it was nothing. So, stocks only go up, and with that being said, we have to find our longs. I have been talking about this BLNK. This is the number one name on our hit list. We're coming in hot. We're looking to take over. And these levels that I had highlighted here, if we go to the monthly 1 year and we look at some of these, key levels that I had spoke about, 324. 324 is really the biggest zone that I'm concerned with. And if we take and look, roughly that's 324. Let's see here, 327, 324 right here. So we've been battling with this 324 level for a solid month here, between going above it and below it. And today we had another move through it. The question is, will it hold? What will it do in the next coming days? Also, I believe we have Jay Powell speaking tomorrow. Not 100% sure on that, but if that is the case, all bets are off. Well, not all bets are off, because I have bets on BLNK currently, but it certainly puts you on a little bit of a defensive position. But I'm kind of tired of playing that game. Like I said in the past couple videos, I've been slacking a bit, and I want to just get back onto I want to get back on offense. That's why I'm naming this the Dialed series, because I'm dialed in. I'm getting back on my game. So, BLNK 324 key level. Today, let's zoom in a little bit here. Today we had, well, let's take it back 2 days here. We had the nice rally up through 324, gap down below 324, consolidation below 324, blew through 324 today, and we started to hold at these 329 and beyond levels. So good sign. In terms of, it's a smidge. You could make a case that it's a smidge overextended intraday, kind of on the smaller time frames, but big picture, I did open up a position here because I just don't want to see this thing explode through these levels without me at least having some action on this. But in a perfect world, this may consolidate back in that 320 zone, right in that 324 zone, and then we get the explosive move up to that 350 and beyond. And if we look in here, this 350, 360, 380 is that, I believe, 386, 420. So in a perfect world, this consolidates a bit. The only issue is with the Fed speech. I find it hard to believe that this is going to just have a nice consolidation day and then give us that move that we're foreseeing here. But in a perfect world, this consolidates in that 324 zone, maybe for a day, maybe 2 days, and then we have the explosive move up. All of that might be accelerated with tomorrow's, you know, kind of macro news, but you never know. You got to just stick to the process. So nevertheless, key levels 324, and then also for an aggressive kind of stop loss zone, I would say this 304 is probably dead bottom in terms of the window that we're operating out of here. I mean, if you want to be more of a big picture trader, you could operate off of lower levels, but for what I'm dealing with here, this 304 is that's the line in the sand. Anything below that and you're just bag holding. So we have a nice defined channel here for us to operate our, you know, our trade out of. So I feel good about this. We'll see how tomorrow goes with that Fed news. I have to confirm that, but again, these videos are just me going and doing what I normally do. I don't necessarily, you know, go through it, all the nooks and crannies. This is just me kind of blurbing out my ideas, and then I dial it in on my own in private, but certain things we're just kind of going through and just talking the ideas out. So let's go through a couple others. This BLNK, like I said, number one hitter. This is number one. I said the GPS the other night. I kind of don't like this, but the setup is... This is one of those ones where I probably shouldn't even mention it because it's... I don't know. It had this really nice move on the 15 minute 3-day chart today. And I was watching this in here and I'm looking and it looks really nice, but I don't know, there's certain names that, and there's certain looks and characteristics of certain charts that you just, I don't know, it's just hard to pull the trigger. This is kind of one of those. This is falling in that basket. But it did visually kind of give us a nice look. The only issue is when you have these kind of gap downs here, it makes it difficult, especially if you're swing trading. If you're swinging this from in here yesterday and then you get this gap down this morning, it makes it tough. But nevertheless, I did mention GPS as a potential trader. It produced an opportunity in here, you know, more of an aggressive trader approach. I didn't really love this, but I did notice this was kind of setting up nicely. And then this definitely looked very healthy here at the end of the day. So just kind of combing through these. The Piton, again, I mentioned, this kind of pains me to say this, but it actually looks decent for a long bias trade. I love the moving average squeezers. I love when these kind of tighten up and squeeze. So that's basically as good as it gets in terms of the moving averages. That's in no way a confirmation green light special in terms of just buying blindly, but it's one box that we're checking off here. And if you dial into, what was it I'd gone through, the monthly 1 year, we get this key level of 364 where we had this massive, well, we had this nice green monthly candle. 364, same as I'm operating with, what the heck was it? Same as I'm operating with BLNK. I'm looking at these monthly charts, trying to get these big picture zones that have volume, a mass amount of volume consolidated in that monthly area to really have a quality zone to, take your trade off of and put your risk off. So 364 on Piton, as you dial in, it gets a little more visually appealing here in the weekly 1 year. We had 364, and then if you dial in on the weekly, you have 343. So let's look at this: 364, 343. 364 is literally basically at the price action currently, and 343 I said. 343 is right in this zone. So essentially Piton is working on, we have not only the moving averages squeezing, we also have the fact that this thing has been getting crushed since frickin', the end of COVID. What is this? 21. But I mean, even it basically peaked January 21. So this thing has just been getting crushed. Now, I'm not a huge fan of assuming that just because it's gotten crushed that it's a good trade opportunity to the long side, but in some scenarios that can be an argument, and in this case maybe. I mean, it's still a piece of junk, but kind of looks nice. So 343, 360 neighborhood, 2 key levels I'm watching here, basically in these levels. Let me see this here. Yeah, I mean, kind of has a look, kind of has a look to it. So still on watch, not aggressive in any way towards this, but definitely keeping it on watch. Now these miners, I had mentioned these miners back 2 weeks ago, and this one is literally ripping my heart out because I was talking about this down here. I watched this entire move, took no part in it. I also was watching this wolf back in here, and I was waiting, which it had a beautiful setup here on the 100-day, and I was waiting in here to see what would happen because this was earnings, and it gapped down. So it gapped down. I kind of said, okay, that's just gonna fall off radar a little bit. At a similar time, this IREN as well, this somehow started trending upwards and just took off. And so I was thrown off because I thought this whole miners basket was just gonna fade. There was a couple others, the CLSK, what were the other ones I had? A couple of these miners and HUT. For the moral of the story is I was factoring in all of these miners to trend and to trade alongside each other, and once this gap down, I thought maybe that was kind of the overall consensus of the whole sector, but this IREN just went to the moon. So then when I saw this wolf taking off in here, I got excited, but I just don't, these they're so irrational. I've kind of taken a step back from even watching these, because when you look back big picture, it looks like a great ride, just essentially straight up for the most part. But when you dig behind you pull the curtains up here, or pull the curtains back, it's just a tough one. You get all these, you get this, you get this run up, and then as you kind of get in tighter, you have these gap downs and then rallies. This morning, huge gap down and then just a massive rally all day. So I've kind of noticed with these miners, it's probably Bitcoin in general, this whole field, it's really tough to get something that sets up and looks good, and then you can actually take a shot and feel confident. This is more of just a, it's something like this. You look at a daily chart like this, and then all of a sudden you wake up to a gap down. You wake up to a gap down. I mean, that's just scary to be buying into that. So, I mean, intraday, you're not going to want to buy into this. And swing trade wise, unless you're buying way down, essentially before this was even on your radar, which wouldn't even happen, there's really not a lot of zones where you can really sink your teeth into this thing. So I'm taking a step back from these miners. I just don't see the shot. I can't get my scope on their head on this one. So they look great. I mean, IREN is unreal. And in here, this here, I actually, it's quite embarrassing, but I had a buy in, it was 768. I think I was in. I was in at 768 and I sold at 735 for a loss. I think it's too far away to see. I think, yeah, it was in here. It was in here. But long story short, I sold at 735 thinking, oh yeah, it's gonna, I'm gonna respect my stop loss. Literally dead bottom, and then this thing hasn't even thought about going down since. So I think the mining, crypto, all that, it just has me on skates. I can't get it. Other names, this Chewy, this is more so just a watch. This isn't really a take action. This is just kind of a visual right now. What was that other one? BROS, Bros. Another one, kind of just a visual. TSHA, same thing. I'm kind of just seeing what they're doing. These are kind of missed opportunities. This is what I would say is an opportunity that you missed, but you're aware of, and you're using them as kind of a lesson, because you kind of archive this in your head as what to look for the next time, and hopefully not miss, because I would have liked to have been in here, selling here, maybe holding, a quarter for like that lottery runoff, and then the same thing applies to here. I kind of wimped out, and then I just watched this. So with I will say my reason was because I thought the volume was a little low, and I stand by that. Same thing with Bros, but tough one, is what it is. So it's really just that. It's BLNK. We're coming in hot. It's Piton on the watch in that channel that I highlighted. GPS, probably not so much. But the thing is, I'm not gonna let it just fall off radar. I'm gonna at least watch it, because there's nothing worse than you looking back in a week or two and then seeing something that you would have liked to have traded. So that's really it. The QBTS I tried along in here, ended up just stopping out for a loss down in the like 120 zone. Kind of disappointed, because I really like this monthly 10-year, but it just won't go. It's just no bids, no volume. And the thing is, with these, when a stock is below $1.50, I just feel like it's just a piece of junk. It's just something. There's something about it. Doesn't mean they can't go up, but it's just, I don't know. So this falls in that category. It might just be a junker, but we're not going to let it fall off our radar, because if this all of a sudden has a big green candle, consolidates, and if my memory is correct, this was a beautiful squeezer. Yeah, so in a perfect world, this pops on big volume up into the 140s, consolidates, the moving averages get real tight, then we explode through this 160 level, and we challenge up in this 220 zone. Because if this thing gets going on the monthly, this thing could go to 4. It really could, but it's looking worse by the day. So back burner on that one. What else do we have? Anything else? There's really nothing that's a green light special at this point. I was looking at this BNAI, starting to, I mean, sometimes these names with huge volume you just gotta look at, but a lot of times I don't end up actually trading these ones. Yeah, nothing really there. This ASTS had a huge move. This is crazy. Some of these just keep going, man. If you can get in one of these, that's just like this Zim. When I first made this channel, I was talking about this in here. This thing just went nuts. I mean, if I could go back in time and just hang on to this thing. And I had said that because if you go back and watch, I highlighted this weekly 1 year, and this had a beautiful move. It had a nice kind of pop off the bottom, kind of a little like an up and over, as I kind of call it, where it kind of popped, went over, and then up again, and then it did another up and over, consolidating below highs. And this is on a weekly 1 year, so it had huge momentum. I didn't see this going that high, but again, that's usually how it goes, because you're kind of thinking about getting out. In reality, these things can just go, and this definitely did. So I think that is it. Let's see, any others? This HIMS, this thing just went nuts also. No trade on this from me. It's tough with these gap ups. When it gaps up and then it fades, this is just like the GPS. That's why I don't really love this stuff. When it gaps and then it fades, I mean, this to me is more of just a day trade, intraday kind of bounce setup, rather than swing long, even though it's at blue sky levels, kind of breakout levels. Whereas I like this BLNK because it's not gapping up and doing any of that crazy stuff, and it's just getting real tight and real consolidated in this level. And then when you kind of overlap that with the bigger picture levels here that I've talked about, the 322 or well, my charts are a little different sizes on different tabs here. So now we're at 322. I like to be exact here. 322. So that's why I prefer stuff like this over the gaps with the, even though, you know, you can have things like this where it just kind of gathers and then goes, but overall I find the gap stuff gets a little iffy, and it creates less conviction, which then leads to less size, which leads to smaller gains. So it's almost better to just look for stuff like this where you can just go huge and, you know, feel more confident about your trade. So those are some of the ideas I have going, and let's just keep it dialed.